Good morning everyone and welcome to Middle Earth readings. Today is the 6th of February 2023. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham and I am here to draw you through the planetary movements coming up this week as they move through the runic wheel, and to do your rune readings for those of you who share your rune of the week, either in the chat or if you have shared them with Suzanne. Now, I'm aware that at the moment we've got a little bit, there's people sharing in various different places. So I've had a bit of a chat with Suzanne and we need to, find a way that she can get them all together. So what I can say is that I know from personal experience, if you haven't hashtag Suzanne Slade, if you haven't said, is it hashtag? No, at Suzanne Slade, she won't be able to see them because you need to tag her so that she knows. So if you haven't done that, please do. I will talk to Suzanne and say, how can we make it so they all go in one place to make it easy for her so that she can find all of your runes. So I think she says that she's done her absolute best to try and find everyone's today, but make her life easy. At Suzanne Slade when you want to share your rune for the week. It's just a little bit of housekeeping there. Hi Esther, Karen, Candice, Lisa, Darcy, Pamela. Lovely to see all of you, and yes, I can see that you're already sharing your runes. Hi Michelle, which is great. So let me take you through a little bit of the themes for the week ahead. So we've got 3 planetary movements coming up. We've just had a really big, actually not really big, it's a micro moon. It was a micro moon last night, which is when the moon is the furthest away from the Earth than it can be, because it's not on a fully circular orbit. It's a little bit elliptical, I want to say. So it looks as if it's further away, but it's the last micro moon of the year. So it was a small moon, but I looked at it last night. It was so bright. The sky was so clear. And it was a full moon in Thurisaz, which does bring a lot of our passion, a lot of our power, a lot of our more challenging things that are coming up for us to the surface. It does bring all of those things up. And I've been talking in Sooner Star Wheel and to people in Illuminate and to you here about the way in which we could use the power of that full moon to name those feelings, to name what was present for us, to actually allow it to come to the surface. Because with the energy of Thurisaz, repression is your enemy, you know, because the Thurisaz rune puts it somewhere, you know. So if you haven't done that yet, obviously, although we have a point when we say this is the full moon, no, the moon is still in its fullness for, you know, more than an hour, you know, more than a day. So go out, and if you don't have anyone to talk to about it, go and chat to the moon and say, this is what's present for me right now. And that's important because we're going through a shift at the moment. We're moving out of a very quiet, introspective, replenishing period of time, and we're starting to gain momentum for a much more energized period of months going right through until September, where the planets are really aligned behind us in terms of movement and momentum and change, which is great. But it can mean that we don't always have time to pay attention to those bits, and they can fester underneath, and then they rear their heads back up, you know, come September time, or as some of the more tricky planets come in. So use this full moon time. And our theme for this week draws on the movements of Odin's chariot, which is Mercury, of Thor's chariot, which is Jupiter, and of Suna's chariot, the Sun. So these are all quite, let's say, sovereign planets in many ways. And this is part of that stepping into power, these shifts that are taking place. Excuse me. So Odin has moved out of retrograde. He did so earlier in January, which is great. And he's going to be moving on the 6th. That's today, just checking. He's moving on the 6th back into Perthrow. So he made it into Perthrow, then he came out of Perthrow, went back even further, and now he's popping back into Perthrow. He's going to be there until the 16th of February. So we've got just over a week with this energy. And this is very much the energy of Odin recognizing that, you know, he has a thirst for knowledge. He has a thirst for knowledge, a thirst for purpose, a thirst for wisdom and inspiration, and that he needed something that he didn't possess. He knew that there was an absence. His Odin's chariot Perthra sort of talks about finding the unexpected sources of support. You know, if in doubt, call for backup is the way that I always think about it. And the backup that he calls is Mimir, who is a god of wisdom who was beheaded, and his head was placed at Mimirsbrunn. He was one of Odin's great advisors. He went over to the Vanir. They didn't like him. We won't go into it. They cut his head off. Odin wasn't pleased. Apparently he wandered around holding the head and wailing for quite a long time. And then the head was placed under Mimirsbrunn. And he still used to go and speak to Mimir. He had incantations and spells and ways of empowering the head so that he could speak to Mimir, and he's known for speaking to the dead. But then he needed to go deeper, and so he takes his eye, one of his eyes, and he places the eye underneath Mimirsbrunn. And the idea is that he can then access another form of wisdom, another form of power. So he's drawing on the well of Mimirsbrunn, which is a well underneath the well of Weird. It's this place of the subconscious, of the collective conscious, real access to very deep wisdom through this period of time. So this is a great time for doing oracular work, for seeking readings, for doing journeying work, you know, that sort of deep feeling into wisdom that we access by going inwards, but it remains external to us. It is offered to us by spirits, by our guides, by our intuition. You know, we're working with Heimdall in the half space all through this month, so it's a very nice place to be. Then we have Thor in Ewaz, and bear with me because I have not scribbled down the date at which he is moving, and it's nice to give the dates. So Thor's chariot is moving into Ewaz on the 10th of February, and he's going to stay there until the 16th of April. So he's a slower moving planet, and he's moving into Ewaz, which is the rune of partnership. It's the rune of the rider and the steed. It's also a rune, it's very empowered with Thor's chariot, because Thor's hall, which comes up later in the year, is Ewaz, the rune, its half month, is bang in the middle of Thor's hall. So he has a lot of synchronicity. He steps into power in this point. And it's that partnership, it's the partnership that he has with Mjolnir, his hammer, it's the partnership that he has with his gloves and his belt and his staff and all of the things that make him stronger. It's the partnership that he has in, what's the word I'm looking for? With Loki, you know, when they go out together, and Loki brings one skill set and Thor brings the other, and with Odin, you know, that he offers his allegiance to Odin, and with the earth as well, that he is seen as the protector of Midgard. But for him, there is a really strong bond of partnership with the earth there. And so this theme of partnership comes through again more strongly in terms of thinking about who is available to us to partner. And then Suna's chariot will be moving as well, and bear with me while I again look up the date to be absolutely sure, because Suna's chariot, although the dates are very, very similar each year, they can be out by a few days. So the 11th, Suna's chariot will move, and it'll stay there until the 26th of February. If you're interested, the dates that are on my website and that you will find on most websites about runic astrology are dates that were taken from Nigel Pennick's book, Starcraft and Timekeeping, Runic Astrology, Starcraft and Timekeeping, and they were calculated in a specific year, and they do move, which is why we always do exact calculations when we do people's birth runes, for example. I digress. So on the 11th we will move in with Suna's chariot in Suello. And what this one is with Suello, there is a real sense of, again, of movement, and we're moving out of, whereas Suna's chariot in Algiz for the most of this week, it's that real strong divine partnership. It really weaves in with Odin's chariot in Perthro. Algiz being the rune of the divine, the human reaching up for connection with the divine, so calling inspiration, calling in guidance from a higher power and seeking blessing. Then it moves into Suello, which is the trust in oneself. It's that sense of, my heart tells me where I need to go. And what Suna's chariot is reminding me of at this point is it's saying, you can't be a leader without followers. It's impossible. So there are two questions that I'm going to invite you to consider through the course of this week to help you to deepen into the the web of energies that all of the runes working together, all of the planets moving through the wheel create together. Imagine they're linking like this in this web. One is who or what is leading. And you can think about this like literally in the moment. You can think about it in moments when you're feeling, actually I'm feeling quite powerful right now. Ooh. Who or what is leading? But also in moments when you're feeling disempowered right now. Who or what is leading? So this morning, I was all ready for middle earth readings, I'm starting to think about it, I was doing my processing, all of that sort of stuff. And as you know, my mornings are quite rushed because I have small children and places to go, people to see, all of these sorts of things. So that time is precious to me when I'm doing my prep work for this session with us. And then I got a phone call from the letting agency we're working with, and they let me know that the key had broken off in the lock just before the electrician needed to be coming. All of this was going through my mind, and I was trying to ring various people, get things sorted, do all of this sort of stuff. And absent-mindedly, I was munching on an enormous bar of chocolate. You don't want to know what time it is in the morning that I was doing that. This little voice went, who is in the lead right now? And I thought, well, my conscious mind is clearly trying to take leadership of this situation, do the thing. But my subconscious mind is going, I don't want to be doing this. And I'm feeling like my need to prepare for my session is not being met. And therefore I'm trying to fill that need. I'm going to be talking about this in Illuminate tonight. It's all about our session there. I am trying to fill that need with a desire, namely chocolate. Now that's what we tend to do. So I took a little bit of a step back and I was like, what do I need right now? And then I emailed all the people and I basically said, do not contact me about this. This is who you call. And I gave them a different contact number. Now, so that question, who is in the lead or what is in the lead? No, I started off by thinking, is the chocolate in the lead? And I was like, well, no. Why was what was motivating me to have that chocolate? So it's a little bit of exploration. So it's just that at the moment we have this opportunity as we start to move into momentum, to gather that momentum, to ask those questions, because we still have access to that deeper wisdom through Odin in Perthrow and through Suna's chariot in Suelo. Algiz, I should say, before it moves through into Suelo, of saying, what's happening here? And to take a step back. Darcy says chocolate for breakfast. I know, Darcy. I had already had breakfast and it had been a while before, but still, it's not the way you start a Monday, is it? And the second question is, who is my partner? And again, you could say who or what is my partner? So I was at that point, I was starting to feel a little bit of time pressure, and I wanted to come and I wanted to give you what spirit, what the planets, what weird wanted to say for this session. And I was feeling that time pressure, and I was going, oh, time, you're my enemy, which we have a relationship which is very often like that. And I thought, Maggie, what would happen if you claimed time as your partner? And obviously this is quite a big thing for me. It was just sort of say, okay, if I claim time as my partner, and I, instead of it going, the clock is moving, and I go, basically time is telling me I need to regroup and refocus, and it's my helper in this, what would happen then? And somehow, although I was a little bit late because then the door rang just as I was about to start Middle Earth readings, which is less than helpful, nothing to do with time. That wasn't time's fault. That was the delivery driver, offering me something. But I was ready on time, and I didn't think that was going to happen. So this is about shifts. It's about going, when you move into that moment of saying, I could have said, well, who is my partner here? Chocolate is my partner, because chocolate is telling me that there's something wrong, because I don't normally go and reach for a Cadbury's fruit and nut at this time in the morning. What's it trying to tell me? But claiming those things that you find difficult as your partners, and saying, yes, they might be pointing out uncomfortable truths. So time might be pointing out to me that I only have 10 more minutes for this activity. How do I want to use it best? What do I want to cut out? What do I want to bring in? But what it's not doing is, it's not like a bully or an enemy or yeah, if I energetically treat it that way, I don't move forward. Whereas if I start to lean into time as my partner, what might be possible? So answers on a postcard on that one. Who or what might be empowering for you to claim as a partner rather than an enemy? What would happen if I chose the mess in my house as a partner? What might be possible for you? What might you choose to be a partner? A reluctant partner, perhaps at this point. It might be a reluctant partnership, but what might be possible for you? And who or what is leading in any given moment? So have a little bit of a play with those. So that's where we are with the planetary movement. So just a reminder for those of you who are members of Suna's Star Wheel, you have your sheet in your Sacred Play resources where you can write out all of the planetary movements for the week ahead, so that you can see them all in one place. I only go through the planets that are transiting in Middle Earth readings, just because otherwise we'd be here for a long time. But obviously I do that a broader piece on that for those of you who are members of Suna's Star Wheel, and you do have your template, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do today. Actually, I was like, oh, I shall write out the template and then I can show people the template, but that will have to wait until another time. Time, as my partner has told me, that wasn't meant to be today. That will come at another time. Carolyn says, that's me, the mess in my house. Excellent, we claim the mess in your house as a partner. What might become possible when it becomes a partner? Brilliant. Let us move then to the readings. Let's see what we have got. So Pamela, you have got Ingus. So Ingus can be pronounced Ingus or Ingwas. Either way is fine. There's no definitive one on that because the rune names, as in their sounds, are reconstructed by linguists because no one living still speaks Proto-Germanic, so they've been reconstructed. So we don't know exactly. And it also has two symbols. So it has the diamond symbol, and it also has the symbol that looks like a sort of little DNA helix. And where are my rune cards? I can bring them up. And Ingus is very contained energy. It is very it's this potency that seems small, and then as the seed, small as the seed, or let's imagine like the acorn, it's that, how is it possible that something so tiny can have so much power within it? And it comes to me back to this point around support, is of saying, well, obviously the acorn contains within it the coding for what needs to be done. It contains its pattern, its DNA, and it contains, let's call it like a starter kit of energy. And it contains within it a response, this sort of instinctive response to, when are the conditions going to be right for me to start to grow? And this is where the partnership comes in, because the oak tree isn't just, it's not just that the acorn goes and it would do that in a vacuum. It contains within it an instinctive understanding of how to draw in support, how to draw in the water from beneath the earth, how to send the roots down deeper, how to keep on searching out those that support as it goes, and then reaching up and then starting to draw the light down into it, and how to start to turn that energy, that raw energy of light or water or minerals, whatever it is, into what it needs. And so Ingus is very much about saying, imagine that in terms of this week for you, Pamela. It's about saying, if you think about support, think about it in the context of drawing it into your body and saying, what can I do with this? I might need to undergo some sort of alchemical process inside. It might not be obvious immediately. I might just get this instinct, that feels right. Trust those instincts, trust the instincts of the seed, and then draw in what you need, and trust yourself that you're going to be able to change it and grow it inside you into what you need. There's going to be a transformative process that happens. Now, Esther, you have got Rado. So Rado is different. So whereas Ingus is still, the forces of the world happen upon it, and its power is waiting for the right moment and trusting itself that in the right moment it will be ready and it will know what to do. Suelo is a rune of movement. If it doesn't like where it is, it goes somewhere else. Celebrates the movement. Then we have the Rado rune there, just a capital in it really, can't we, which is the rune of the road. It's the rune of rhythm, it's the rune of routine, and this is I think that this is about saying, If the partnerships that you are looking for aren't over here, go over there instead. It's that saying, you get to choose, you get to move, you get to choose the path. It's interesting because it's what I can feel very strongly because of the Ingu's rune is this sort of almost absence in that way of the insight. It's almost saying that we can become too self-reliant. That with the Ingu's rune there is a certain level of self-reliance, a certain level of when the time is right I will strike and it will be fine. With the radar rune is saying actually no, it's that infrastructure that we build around us, it's the road that we create, it's the routines that we create, it's the rhythm that we create that then supports us so that we don't have to give as much of our energy. And that's what I'm feeling there. It's saying anything that feels to you as if it's a drain, as if you are what needs to be relied upon. What can you do to move that on? What I talk about with my coaching clients, we sometimes talk about like big rocks. They're like intentions that we set that deliberately will make everything easier or unnecessary. No, so you could put things like sort of automating a process or getting somebody else to do like delegation. It's those sorts of things, and it's getting into that routine of saying, is this something that I just do because I've never given any thought to it, and if I did I'd get somebody else to do it. So it's looking at those things, it's looking at those rhythms and rituals and routines and saying if it doesn't work I can shift it, I can move over here and I can change it. But that's what you're looking at. You're looking at anything that can be done that frees up your own energy. Karen, you have got Suelo, which is also a rune of movement there. So we've had the radar rune, which is quite deliberate steps of making change, deciding on a different course of action, moving forward. Suelo can often be a little bit more free form. I was saying how with the Suelo rune, when we think about a leader isn't a leader until they have followers. And I'm reminded here of a YouTube video. There we go. Da-da-da. I think it's called The Power of the First Follower. I'm going to write it down as a reminder to me, the first follower, because then I can post it in the group. It's not a Northern Tradition video, but it's a very funny video and it's a very powerful video. Because basically it says that a leader doesn't become a leader until they have the first follower, and they have this guy and he's dancing, which is very Suelo. Suelo is all about freedom of movement. It's like he goes, oh, I feel like doing this, I'm going to do this. It's great, and he's loving it. And that's Suelo energy. There is fun loving, there is enjoyment, there is pleasure, there is instinctively doing what you want to do. But at the point in the video, they call this man, who is having a great time, like dancing in a park on his own, basically. They call him the Lone Nutter. And he's there, and he's going, la 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 la. And then somebody else goes, well, it looks like he's having fun. And they join him. And then there's two people dancing. There's the Lone Nutter, who's no longer a lone nutter, and there's the first follower. And essentially the first follower gives their power to the Lone Nutter and turns them into a leader. And then the rest of the video is amazing. It's just watching as more and more people join in. And a movement is formed. And it's a lovely expression of leadership. And what the Suelo rune is calling out for me with this, Karen, is this sense of when we do things that give us joy and pleasure and just feel good and right, we might be a lone nutter, but we're a happy lone nutter. Or we might be a leader. It might not be about saying, do this. He doesn't stand there with a placard going, dance now. Just doesn't do it. He just does what feels right to him, and people follow for that reason. So it's looking for that power of that energy of play and power and what feels good and what feels right, and following that, following your instincts, and just going, yeah, maybe a few times I'll be a lone nutter. Am I okay with that? And if you're not okay with it, ask yourself the question, who or what is leading here? And yeah, and go with that. And if you're still feeling like, oh no, then you can ask the question, who is my partner? And you could say to somebody else, I'm going to go and do a lone nutter dance in the park today, and what I would really like is if you would come and join me as my first follower, and then I'll feel better. That's available to you as well. But do what feels good this week. Candice, your rune is Dargaz. We've got a fire rune with Suella. We're moving to a fire rune with Dargaz. So Dargaz is at the end of the Elder Futhark. It means day. Its name literally means day. I always think of it as being a gateway rune. It offers new perspectives as well. It's like that real sudden shift when you suddenly go, oh, that thing that I thought was that. No, it's not that at all. What was I thinking? You know, it's that sudden moment of clarity where everything changes. But you can sometimes get those shifts in the body where in 1 minute you're feeling really just like, I can't move, I can't do anything, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you know, and it shifts and you don't know why. So here's the Dargaz rune, and it's like, imagine you've got like one state of being here, and you're building that momentum. And again, you know, this is something that I work with clients when we look at embodied practice. It's that sense of which, before you say, I am going to do this task, you know, a task maybe you don't want to do, you think, what energy do I need to be in order to complete that task? Because if you're in a, you know, I'm in bed with my laptop on my knees type of task, that's not going to be the right energy to have a meeting with somebody else online, or, you know, to, I don't know, I find it quite difficult doing things like, you know, like accounts and spreadsheets and stuff from there, because to be honest, I just fall asleep, you know. So rather than going, you must do the thing, you must do the thing, it's not going to happen. It's like saying, what energy do I need to be in? And when you do that, this is the build up where you're transitioning your energy. And then once the energy is ready, it's like, oh, and I've shifted and I'm in the right place. So for me, if I was doing my accounts, for example, I do a bit of a warrioress dance, get up, I might have a walk, you know, go out, a little bit of a power walk, get some fresh air into my lungs, all of those things. Think about where I might need to work in order to for that to feel better. And then it's so much easier. You know, it's so much easier. And the same is true here when I come and do my work here with you. It's like I have a standing desk, so you know, I get my body moves into the energy, and then my mind follows. You know, so Dargaz is offering that at the moment. It's saying, what energy do you need to be in? What state do you need to be in? And how can you get your body into that state? And then your mind will follow. It's quite a specific reading there, Dargaz. Candice. Lisa, you also have Dargaz. No, I think it's the same. It's the same. There is this, it's very much about saying, because Dargaz is this rune that says you need to, you're going to make this shift and the perception is suddenly going to change. It's saying, what conditions do I need to make that shift? So it's thinking about that. And doing that the other way around. That's the only thing I would add in, Lisa. It's like, you know, I talked about the sort of like being in bed with the laptop on your knees, which maybe it's not so good. Perhaps you should be there with candles and reading a book and things, but we should put that to one side. There is then, as the same thing, the question might be there for you around, how do I shift out of like busy doing focused energy into relaxed, being present, being in my hearth energy? And again, what states might you need to do? So it's looking at different state changes there. Darcy, you have Issa. So Dargaz and Issa, they're actually very interesting contrast runes, because Dargaz is, it's almost like an imperceptible change when everything changes. So it's not like Rado, where you take like deliberately, we take one step after the other and then change occurs like naturally, or like Hagalaz, where there's like everything sort of goes mad around you and then you find yourself transformed through the moment. Dargaz can seem as if nothing is happening, and then it all goes like that. So Issa is a rune of stillness. It's the rune of ice, and there is a silence about it and this stability about it. Here we go. And Issa is often considered to be like, it's the I, it's the precursor to the word like I. So modern practitioners often see it as being very related to the ego and to the sort of conscious, the bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and all of those drives and all of those things that I've been talking about that we can bring presence to at the moment. It's almost the Issa rune will, when we work with it in a relaxed way, when we are in alignment, it will allow these insights to rise to the surface like the light passing through the ice, you know, from the deeps and rising up. But we need to be gentle with ourselves in those moments, because if we are too, you must make the shift, you must do it now, Issa will resist, and the ice, which is normally incredibly strong, will eventually crack. So there is a gentleness that comes with the Issa rune. So whereas the Dargaz rune can feel quite sudden and like, oh, this shift, the Issa rune is more considered in its approach, and it can't be, we don't force it with movement. Whereas with Darg, as I said, we can say, what energy shift do I need to be in? Issa asks us to say, where am I right now? If I was to assume that where I am right now is exactly where I need to be, and that whatever it is that is seeking my attention deserves that time and that peace and that quiet, what would be then? What would happen then? It's why I often recommend to people, if they're working with the Issa rune, that they do go and do my YouTube meditation. So I have 2 on there, and the longer one, which is the Issa meditation rather than sort of path working, is all about working with this I am energy. And it's saying that those shifts, sometimes we don't even feel them, we don't even know what's happening with them, because they're happening very deep and they're happening very slowly, but they are important shifts with the Issa rune. So there is an invitation into stillness, an invitation into patience, an invitation into accepting everything as is, which is why we say the I am mantra. It's saying I don't need to be fixed, nothing needs to be changed, I don't need to be forced in any particular direction. I'm going to give myself, particularly if we're feeling that a lot is happening around us, even more important to take those 5 minutes each day to sit and say, I am fine exactly where I am. So that's what the Issa rune is calling out there. Michelle is also saying Dargaz. So Michelle, I am going to... I was going to say, yeah, that's absolutely fine for you, but I said that you put underneath also that I did draw the blank one first. So let me just pause on that for a moment, because that's quite interesting with the Dargaz rune. So I don't work with the blank rune. I did when I first started out. I followed Ralph Blum's work with the weird rune. We had a discussion about the weird rune in the Hearth Space on Friday, and I'm making a list of lives that I want to do. I'm going to do one on bright staves and murk staves. Thank you, Jean. And I've also made noted that I want to do a live on the weird rune and working with the weird rune. So I'm not going to go into the detail as to why I don't work with it anymore, and the pros and cons and what it can mean if we do. But what I would say is, if you had the weird rune first and then the Dargaz rune came, it can be about that feeling of lostness, of like, oh my god, it's like you're falling into the void. Oh! And that you might get these sort of flashes of inspiration, but they can feel so ephemeral with the sort of butterfly wings of the Dargaz rune that you don't know whether to trust them or not. So what I would suggest for that is, first of all, do try and trust them, give yourself time to feel into them, perhaps do some journaling around them. Anything that feels like butterfly wings sort of trying to flutter and come to the surface, pay attention and see what comes up for you there. Now share, you have Ansu's, it's lying on its flat side. I love the runes that there are some runes that they have so many multiple ways of reading them, which is one of the reasons I'm going to do the bright staves and immersive. So this is Ansu's the right way up, and if I read you correctly, Share, it is then lying on its back on its flat side, so up in the air like that. Oh. Sometimes it's fun when they speak to me and I'm like, how does, I'll get an instinctive feeling, and I'm like, oh, but how does that work? How does what I'm getting instinctively channel in with the meanings of the runes? And that's important. It's important for us to say, yeah, I'm getting this very strong instinctive feeling that you can speak and share, but it's that knowledge that you have underneath of what the rune means that's also important. It's that check-in. And the more that you work with your runes, the more that you will trust those intuitions when they come, because you'll go, well, I've worked with Ansu's runes so many times over the years, and it's never come up like this before. But I'm literally, when I was looking at it, I was seeing this is the ground, and these are almost like fences or hurdles, and I was seeing those ones that spring up when almost like a car going along the road, and in those films when the nails or whatever it is spring up at the last minute and the car goes woo, and it goes everywhere. And I was remembering that Ansu's is, one of its names is the Unfetterer. It's this rune that offers freedom, it offers an ability to break free of chains and constraints. And obviously when it's on its side like this, what I'm reading in that is that sense of that there are some things that we can't break free of. Maybe in the future you'll be able to, but it's like not at the moment. So this is where you can ask those questions I asked about, you know, what is my partner? Is there anything that seems like a real challenge and you just doesn't feel like that? Is there any way of changing that perspective by thinking about partnership? Is there a sense in which of which you can say, you know, like I did with the who or what is leading, and I was just like, I'm going to absent myself from this and just say no, I'm backing off. Where can you find as much comfort as possible, whilst recognizing that it might just be uncomfortable and there might just be some things that aren't going to work as you would want them to this week? And perhaps that sense of partnership is almost that, you know, Odin goes down to the well to draw up his eye from, not to draw up his eye, to place his eye under Mimi's brune and then to draw up the knowledge. It can be easier when we know that we've done everything that we possibly can, when we know that that it's not our fault, when we know that the best possible thing that we can do is to be patient, and possibly like putting the brakes on might not be a bad thing, or at least attempting to just drive through and over is not going to work. No, it's better to like slow the car down now than to face the little Ansu's prongs that are there. So if there's anything that you can stop, is there anything that you can defer, anything that you can just say no to, this is a good time to do it, share. Morning, Suzanne. I was actually thinking this morning I was going Middle Earth readings. Obviously my partners are the planets and the runes, and Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne partner, who does such a great job of gathering up people's runes, which is why, you know, that more and more of you are sharing your runes, which is why it's important that we find a way that it's really easy for Suzanne to do that. So we will have a look at that to get that working well for Suzanne and everybody, and for me, so that we can all get our readings. So you have manners, Suzanne. So much about standing in your power, saying what you need. It's all of that wisdom that's coming up from Odin in Perthro, from Thor in Ewaz, from Suna's chariot in Algiz, and then Suelo, around giving voice to what you need in the moment, and not even giving voice sometimes. It's almost just, there's a little bit of like being immovable, you know, when people go, oh no, I don't want to do that, and they think that if they just keep on badgering at you, you're going to budge, and it's just going, no, you can be silent, you can be still in the moment, but it's just standing your ground is what I'm hearing. But it's not even that, it's like a seated energy. Standing your ground sounds a bit like you're like a warrior. I'm standing my ground. Manas is not even standing its ground, and Manas could be like lying down on a chaise. Still going, nope. You know, there's an enthroned. I am in the seat of power, and these are my decisions to make, and I do not need to tell you why. I do not need to justify myself in any way. I do not need to apologize for that, because it's simply what I want to do, and that's okay. It's more than okay, it's good. So anytime you can do that, anytime you can give voice to that, do so. Claim your realm is what's coming through there. And Troy, you've got the same with the Manas rune. Oh, claiming the realm. I think, Troy, the only thing I would add to that is that sense of being really, really comfortable in going, it's not my job to be the defender with mana. So there are other runes who do that defender role. And if you feel vulnerable or challenged in any way, you could do a reading and say, well, again, like, who is my partner, or who is leading around this? The Manas rune is very much saying, stand in your power, stand in the center, be that place of calm strength. Don't be caught, don't be like lured out. It's a slightly similar thing going on there to shares with the Ansu's rune. It's sort of saying, yeah, don't be lured into what can sometimes be a trap, you know, where somebody tries to get you off center or off balance, and you go, oh, but la, 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 and then you go, well, I don't feel good about that. I had a conversation with somebody last week, and they were saying, they said, I want to come over and see you. It's going to be great. It's going to be lovely. When can you do next week? And I looked at my calendar, and I was just like, I said, I can't do next week. And they said, well, I'm working solidly for 2 weeks after that, so I can't do that. And this is just a really clear example to me that you are working too hard. Why is it? You know, you're working like every night next week. You don't have any time for it. They got really irate about it. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I am working 2 nights next week, and I'm taking some time off in lieu, and I do that, but I also have a PTA meeting, and I'm going out to dinner with a friend, and I didn't want to say to them, and I'm also just taking a night off, and I don't want you to come round. You know, it was that sort of thing. Got to the end of the conversation, and I was like, hold on. I didn't need to give them my diary. I didn't need to. I just said, it's not convenient for me next week, you know? Besides the fact that they just told me that they were working solidly for 2 weeks afterwards, you know, maybe they were a bit annoyed with themselves. That, you know, they were thinking it's the same, they're projecting. Anyway, I digress. The point was, I got lured into that defensive, justifying place, rather than the, it's just, no, I just don't have any time in the diary. It'd be lovely to see you, that'd be really great. I'm sorry that we can't do it in the 2 weeks that you're working. Let's look at something afterwards, you know, that'd be good. And it didn't feel good to either of us then, to be in that position of me being defensive, and the other person maybe going, oh, perhaps I've overstepped the mark here, but I don't know how to backtrack. So yeah, I share that with you, my own lesson in manners energy there. Erica, you have Bacano. Here we are. Bacano rune. Bacano rune. Bacano is the rune of the spring, so there's almost a sense of this real sort of aliveness and this desire for growth and movement, which is, and there's something that's making me slightly wary about it. You know what it is? I think it's that sense in which, with Bacano, we can go out into nature, and I know you're somebody who would do this anyway, Erica, I'm sure that you have already. You know, you go out and you spot the signs of spring and of life, like growing around you. These promissory, almost like promissory notes from Mother Nature saying, you know, the earth will become fecund, and the harvest will be plentiful, and all of these things. And look, there's the snowdrops over there, or there's this over there. So that even when we have cold snaps, so we're having another cold snap in the UK at the moment, there's still those, like, yeah, I'm thinking of them as little promissory notes going on. But what we can sometimes do is that we feel that corresponding energy inside ourselves, and we go, oh, it's spring, we can go. And that's not quite there yet. So it's almost like just making sure at this point that you are drawing in, again, that Bacano, you're drawing in all of those promising notes, and you're taking that energy inside, and you're going, oh, that's wonderful. But you're not saying, I need to do anything with it yet. I don't need to come into action. I was listening to Gardener's World yesterday, and there was a really good question that said, as the days start to get brighter, I really, really, like, my fingers are itching to go out and to cut away all of the dead wood and leaves and things like that. And I know I'm not supposed to, because it's a shelter for nature until winter is over. But how can I stop myself? And there was a really interesting discussion around it. And it's a little bit like that. It's sort of saying, yeah, enjoy it, but don't get pulled into that Bacano energy of, you know, must grow. Now, Elaine, you have Athala, the rune of legacy, inheritance, estate. I'm just feeling into the Bacano rune there. Actually, Elaine, I'm feeling as if for you there is this sense in which, you know, I was talking about Erica going out and just seeing nature, and literally as I look out of my window I can see a pot from last year, and it's got little shoots growing in it. And I feel as if, Elaine, for you it's about that, and I think this is true for all of us actually, that we can look for connection with our ancestors through books that we read, and through learning, and through journeying, and through a lot of work that we do with our head. But nature offers us both a connection with them, but also a real presencing to ourselves. The reason I say that is because the climate is changing all of the time. Regardless of whether humanity is destroying our planet, which I probably think we are. But we have had these big climate shifts throughout the ages of humanity, which have spurred on, migrations across the land, times when the sea was iced over. People came over to this country at this period of time and made it over to Iceland and did all of these amazing things, which are so influential for the northern tradition. And so when we go out and we spot what's happening in nature, we are connecting with our ancestors on a really deep level, because they didn't have lots of books written down or the internet to go and look at or anything like that. So it would be much more, that tree that was planted however many generations ago, and you might have stories about the people attached to that particular tree, because you would know your locale, your home very, very well. There would be stories about when the well ran dry or when it was poisoned, and all of these things would be handed down. It wasn't as easy to just uproot and go off somewhere else. So you knew your land intimately, and you knew its seasons intimately, like it was you. You would feel like you were part of the land, and that we share with our ancestors. But equally, we have plants that didn't exist, in our locations anymore. So there is a difference. And so when we do that work of observing and being with nature, and that real close observation, which we often don't have time for, so it's building time in for that, it's about recognizing that we are both inheriting a way of being, which is perhaps more important in some ways than the individual. I know how to pronounce this word, or I know exactly what this rune means, or anything. It's that way of being in the world. It's a very intimate relationship with nature. And we are recognizing that we must do that for ourselves, that we can't read those things in books because our landscape is different. And I'll offer that to you, Elaine. And then we have Ren with Thurisaz. Thurisaz, the rune of the thorn. I was talking about Thurisaz right at the beginning, wasn't I? And how if we repress because of the full moon, if we repress Thurisaz, stops being our energy, because it says I'm still here, here's whatever it is that you've hidden down there, I'm just gonna accrue myself around it, and that can come through a bit. I'm feeling a little bit of aching in my joints as I'm feeling into the Thurisaz rune, which to me is just that's my own personal story with Thurisaz. And I think that's important for us with Thurisaz. It's recognizing that it is a rune. Here we go. It is a rune that offers us very personal journeys. So with at the beginning of the Futhark we have Feyu, which is this really primal energy of Ordhumla, of the Great Mother, and she nurtures indiscriminately. That's her job. She nurtures all. And then we have Uruz, the sort of raw power, the will to survive, the will to endure, the birthing of the earth itself. All of the things that will endure, because what's the word I'm looking for? Time and space and matter and form and all of those things will continue, even if we as individuals, or we as a species, or we as a planet, or we as anything don't. Feyu and Uruz are that universal. They are continually present and there. Thurisaz brings in the individual. It brings in that almost that primal knowledge of difference and self and distinctiveness, and that we have our own unique experiences, that there is a part of I am experiencing pain and this person is not. It starts to come through, and we don't have the ability to articulate it yet, because that comes through with Ansus, but it's that sense of separation. It's almost like the infant self, when the infant starts to recognize that that the mother isn't the same as them on some level. They start to realize that, and they start to roar and go, oh no, I don't like this, I'm cold, or whatever it is. It's that very early sense of I that comes through with the Thurisaz rune. And when we allow ourselves to go into those places of really deep self-love and listening to our needs and tending to our needs, we open up to the power of Thurisaz, to our own ability to nurture and love and live and do all of those things. But we also have to accept all of the, the anger and frustration of the child who can't do the thing for itself yet. It is this continually growing sense of identity and that feeling almost of aloneness that sometimes can come in when we suddenly realise we're distinct, which is an exhilarating adventure, but also very scary and frightening with Thurisaz. And I can see that Michelle's got Thurisaz as well. When we think about who is my partner and who or what is leading, Thurisaz can often pop its head up and say, a part of me that has been wounded or doesn't feel cared for is leading right now, and they might be leading very subtly so you don't even know it. Now it's like my fear is leading me right now. I'm taking my decisions because that's the case. And the only way to really move in around that is not to say, go away, fear, go away. It's to embrace it, and to hold it like you would the small child, because it is that instinctive small child coming out. So that's what I would bring mindfulness to through the course of this week, is to say, when you get, you're eating the chocolate, that's a little bit of Thurisaz energy coming through right there, saying there's a part, is that the chocolate isn't the Thurisaz energy, it's the part of me that feels inadequate right now and is saying, no, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I need comfort. And it's that ability to love that part that Thurisaz is calling in to say, that part of me is a partner. That part of me is trying to lead because it feels unsafe. What can I do to make it feel safe? So it's a little bit deep there, because that's often these types of things, if they come through strongly, if you haven't done work on them before, it can be worthwhile getting some support or some help with them. If you're used to moving into the realm of shadow and going, oh, hello, old friend, anger from times distant, it's fine. Then Thurisaz becomes our friend. Sunita, you have Wunyo. That's a nice rune to have after Thurisaz. If Thurisaz was being a bit shady, there it is. Thurisaz is a lovely rune. I absolutely love working with Thurisaz. It just brings its shadow side a little bit sooner than some of the other runes. All of them have them. Even Wunyo has them. Here we go. So we've got the Wunyo rune. Yeah, it's the end of the final 8, and it is very much a rune that it's like a preparatory rune. It prepares us. It's that moment of buoyancy when we just go, everything feels right and good, and I've just been witnessed and everyone said how brilliant I am, and I'm feeling, it's like that ecstasy and that real sense of belonging that is so lovely and wonderful. The only challenge with the Wunyo rune is that once we've experienced it, we want to get it again. And it doesn't last forever. We cycle. We're always moving through the runes all of the time. And the job of the Wunyo rune is to say, recognize this feeling, know this feeling. This feeling is a great guide for you as to what's right and what's wrong in your life. So that when I said that thing, and everyone went, yay! And it felt really good. It was immediately followed by fear that what I'd said was big and ambitious and challenging, and how am I going to do it? And that's the Hargalaz rune that comes immediately after the Wunyo rune. And we can collapse and get out of our Wunyo moment. Oh no, I'm not in the Wunyo moment anymore. And it's almost, and then the Wunyo rune either, we say, I'm ready to go through that journey. I'm ready to go through the fear and the challenge and the difficulty because I had that Wunyo moment and it felt really good and it felt really right and I'm going to trust it. Or we spend all of our time going, I want to go backwards. I want to go backwards back into that space where I felt safe and I felt okay, and we get this little bit of a clash with the Wunyo rune. Because it offers us that sense of safety and belonging and when the moment was perfect and wonderful. And it can be really difficult when we have just as when we have moments where we felt incredible pain or difficulty or challenge, moments when we felt intense happiness and joy and longing can leave us with this really strong sense of wistfulness and nostalgia. And I feel as if Wunyo is offering that. It's almost like the shadow side of Wunyo, I would say. I was looking at Thurisaz rune then and recognizing, well, who or what is leading here? And again, who is my partner here? What's my partner here? And I had a moment like this yesterday. Actually, I was with my youngest child, and I'd just been looking at some photographs of when he was a baby, and he was sitting on my lap, and it was just this photo, just this like moment, you know, when somebody captures on a moment, a picture in the moment where you just go, oh my god, it's such a blissful moment. He's never going to look at me again like that ever again, you know, all of those sort of things. He's never going to trust me like that. And I was like, oh, and I was feeling really miserable about it. And then I thought to myself, well, I can't have that anymore, but you know, oh my god, I still love him and it's still wonderful, and let's just open to what might be possible. And we were sitting and doing bedtime, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I was getting him ready for bed, and he fell asleep like in my arms while I was taking his pajamas off. It was just normal bedtime. It wasn't like he'd been up late. He just had a really long day. And he just raised his arms up and he put them around my neck and he was holding me, and it was like that little baby self had come, you know, and he was there, and he said to me, he said, stroke me, in his slow sleepy voice. I was just stroking his hair. And it was like, because I'd released that desire for that moment that had been lost, and I'd said, you know, that's not going to come anymore, but what might be possible moving forward, I'd had I was given the gift of a new memory to add to that store of beautiful windmill moments that, you know, you want to remember them, don't you, when you get to the end of your life, to have those. So it's saying to yourself, okay, you know, how can I say that that moment was my partner, but I'm going to reach out for future ones with the windmill rune. So Ardina, you have Largus as the Merc stave. So Largus is the rune of water. Let me see. Largus is a fun rune because you can, things like runes, words like lake come from, you know, Largus. I also want to say that lagoon does. It doesn't, but it sounds as if it should, doesn't it? I've looked it up and it doesn't come from the same language. I want it to, but it does not. And but leek also comes from it, the word leek, which relates to vegetables. So this is Largus upright. It's that way around. Reverse, which is what we're looking at, or Merc stave, which we sometimes call it. And when it's upside down like this, for me, it can become a hook, like going down into the deeps and drawing up stuff. So, you know, if you've been doing the Illuminate retreat with me, that's what we were doing last week. We were doing a lot of drawing up things from the deeps. Or it can be like the leek with its roots that go down before it shoots up. And I feel as if that's what's coming through. We've been talking about nature quite a lot with the Largus rune. So I'm not feeling that sense of Largus where it's like going down into the depths and drawing up the challenging stuff and the difficult stuff. I'm seeing it much more as being every experience that you've had in the past is preparing you for this next iteration of your life. And you don't need to do anything. You don't need to bring any more awareness to it. You just need to say, yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's also can be a bit of a naughty rune. It's a rune of fertility. And, you know, if you imagine a leek, it's a bit of a masculine symbol going on there, which is Largus is a feminine rune, but it brings in that masculine potency as well. It's that the joining of the two together, and it's that trust. So again, it's letting go of that sense of I need to know how. I need to know how it's going to work. Because if you look at like an oak tree or something like that, we can say, well, if you look at the root systems of the oak tree and you can see how far down they go into the ground, and you can understand how it is that the roots stay stable. Whereas the leek is just such an extraordinary vegetable, isn't it? It just sort of goes poof. And you're just like, oh, just accept it, you know? Accept the blessings, accept the abundance, open your arms up to them. And don't try and go into questioning too much, because I think that's where the Merc stave bit comes in, where it sort of says, oh, you can go into the depths and the exploration of the dark and it won't take you anywhere useful. So accept the offerings, accept the rewards with grace, and don't do too many questionings of why. It's a little bit like the opposite of the Trojan horse, you know, when they say they don't look a gift horse in the mouth or whatever it is. It's sort of saying, actually, accept the gift horse, you know, we're fine, don't worry about its mouth, you know. Accept the miracles of life and look for them. Carol, you have Iwaz. So imagine that this is the Largus, this stave, and so Iwaz has just got its bit at the top as well, which is why, you know, Iwaz is a more balanced rune in many ways. Laguz is that sort of suddenly energy goes, and it's quite that, oh, I don't know where that came from. It's the mysterious way in which it comes to. Iwaz is more grounded, more centered. There is a preservation of your energy. There is a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not giving too much of yourself. Anything, whereas I was talking about delegate and defer earlier in this time, I think for you this is more about sort of saying no, conserving your energy. If somebody says, so what do you want, can you give your last evening of the week to me, no matter how lovely that sounds, feel in and say, does it feel right for me right now? And lean into support. So Iwaz is the staff. So, you know, I was talking about leadership and partnership. So it's very much about saying, if help is offered, accept it. And also rely on your own experience and your own knowledge and your own intuition. Really rely on it. Lean into it. Allow yourself to lean into the opportunities and the blessings of the moment. Have to bear with me one moment because the comments have just done something a little bit odd. Where have we gone? I've lost some of your comments. That's going to be a bit challenging. Okay, I'm going to keep going, and I'm really sorry if anyone's missed off. It's just some of them have gone missing for a moment. So I've got Lauren next, but I'm fairly certain there was someone in the middle that I can no longer see. So if I miss out your rune, please do let me know. So Lauren, we have the Hagalaz rune, so we have the change makers. Whereas with the Iwaz rune, we've got that conserving energy, and it's sort of like this whatever the storm that's raging outside, the Iwaz rune says, I've got this is fine, I know what to do, I know what to bring in as those resources. My rune is Hagalaz, and this time staring me in the face. Hagalaz does that, doesn't it? It's like, hello. You know, there is disruption, there is a little bit of chaos, there is a little bit of challenge with that. You know, it is difficult with the Hagalaz rune, and it's almost saying become the energy of the storm. So you know, remember what I said about what is offering me partnership right now? It's that. It's the saying, whenever you can, even if you're thinking to yourself, this is not partnership, and it's feeling really, really difficult and really annoying. If we focus on the why, the why this is happening, this is unfair, this is difficult, this is challenging, we aren't able to stand in our own power. So this isn't about truth, this is about meaning. So the truth may well be that there is no reason why these things should happen, why it should feel like all of my best laid plans are changing, and it was all organised, now it's not, and there's disruption and all of those things. There may be no fairness about it whatsoever, but you can still make a meaning that says, what is possible for me now? How can I work in partnership with the Hagalaz rune? And how can I almost become a bit of the storm there? You know, that if Hagalaz is your partner and it's the rune of the storm, then you're pretty epic and awesome yourself. So it's looking for that responding wildness in you is what the Hagalaz rune is calling out to me there. Then I have Chen. I'm so sorry, the order has gone really weird now. So Chen, we've got Manaz, and I'm really feeling that sovereignty piece again. I would encourage you to, here's what I said for Troy and Suzanne, that's feeling right. I'm not feeling anything else coming in addition. Then Sally Ann, you have Ewaz, which is the rune of partnership. So obviously Thor, Thor's chariot in Ewaz is going to be really powerful for you at this point. What to say about the Ewaz rune? There's something there about, I don't know if you know whether you've got Ewaz in your birth runes there, Sally Ann, but there's something there around the power of Ewaz and the power of partnership that is less, it's almost claiming those spirit alliances for yourself and saying, you know, I was chosen by my guides because they see me. They trust me, they see my power, they see my strength, and they are totally unique to me. You know, no one else has that infrastructure of guidance from spirit as I do. And so when you're feeling that sense of, oh, I'm feeling a bit inadequate or those things, it's that recognition that your perspective on yourself is not the only one. And that might be the partnership that's being looked in at the moment, is that sort of opening up to guidance, which is why I asked about your birth runes, because I'm sort of interested in whether Ewas was one of your birth runes, because that's one of the ways that you can get spirit guidance. But I'm sure that you've done work with, I know that you've done work with guides in the past as well. And it's looking at that and saying, wow, maybe doing a little bit of I don't want it, not like a review, like a list, but maybe just a sitting in gratitude or thankfulness for those guides, and then recognizing that as you're sitting in thankfulness for them, they are sitting in thankfulness for you as well, because it's a two-way partnership. Carolyn, you have Yera. Says, I have no idea what's happened with the comments now. They seem to be changing order every other second. So I'm seeing some that I've seen before already, and then others that I don't. So bear with me, viewers. So Yera is the rune for the year. It is that slow, steady movement. It's almost like imagine winter and summer. Vetra and Suma, as they're called, are often seen as being in enmity because they are on opposite sides of the wheel, and winter's over here and summer's over here, and we see that almost like that battle that we get. You also get it with like Ul when he comes and he takes Odin's throne through the winter period, and you get like the Holly King and the Oak King and all of these legends of these battling kings. And Yera's sort of saying, well, imagine if maybe that battle is a ritual battle. It is not designed to take life or be cruel or be challenging anyway. It's a ritualized handing over, and it's actually a linking of hands, almost like one of those daisy chain dances that you do when you're moving, and it's that sort of moving and you trust the people in front of you, and you link arms with them, and then they swing you around, and then you link arms with them and they swing you around, and it gets to the point where the dance is moving us. We are having to do very little work. And that's what I'm feeling there, Carolyn. I can't describe to you why it is that I'm feeling that, exactly what that means, but it is that sense of going, when we allow ourselves to like move with the universe like that, just sort of go swing around and swing, and I'm swinging, we stop using our own energy and we're moving entirely with the energy of the year. But it's almost that sense of we have to trust that we understand the rules of the dance, and that we have to allow ourselves to move into that. You know, it's that have you ever been to a country dance class? Doesn't always start out well because we're learning the rules, and that's possibly what is operating there. Is it's saying at the moment, if things feel clunky or difficult, it's because you're learning the rules of the dance, and once you've got them, your energy will be harnessed so much more strongly. Right, let me see. So Carol I'm seeing, but that's Iwas, so I'm going on the basis that with the conservation of energy, that's already come through. April, you've got Thurisaz, which we have already covered as well. Yes, I'm happy with that. We've moved in to Thurisaz, to that claiming of that, to the using of the full moon energy. So have a listen at that with that, April. Esther says, thank you, I will look to see and change direction of where my energy is going. Alessandra's saying, if I'm not too late, I've got Largus. Let's just have a little look at Largus the right way out then, because we looked at it with the leek, didn't we? I'm feeling the waterfall very strongly there, Alessandra. It's that if you take showers, or you're able to go out into the water, or almost into field water, or listen to sounds of water, and you want that rushing sound, it's that real intense cleansing where you imagine that the water's actually getting into your body, like into your skull, into your spine, running down your spine. Imagine it like almost going vertebrae by vertebrae with that really strong noise, and then everything is being cleansed and going out of your feet and out there into the earth. Do that. Can't tell you why, just do that. Karen says, the lone nutter is exactly how I feel at the moment. Lone nutter, I'm proud of it. Yes, that's what we want. Caddy said, that really hits today. Been having so much trouble with lately. Instead of forcing myself, I need to help myself shift into the right energy. Great. Dusty says, beautiful and perfect. Michelle says, thank you. You mentioned feeling lost, and I do feel a bit rudderless these days. What were the names you had for the blank rune? Normally it's called the weird rune. Michelle, I am going to do a live on it, but it will take longer to explain it. Suzanne, thank you. Yes, I did miss Marie and Suello, and I'm so sorry. The comments have just gone over the place, so thank you. We did do Suello, and with Suna's chariot in Suello, it is that sense of, it's the lone nutter dance, essentially. So I gift you, Marie, the lone nutter. It's that recognizing that our way, the way that is us, is the right way. Whatever we feel is the right thing for us, we don't have to worry that it's not, we're not fitting in with what's right, or that we're doing anything wrong. Trust that. You know, I love all of you lone nutters out there. I'm a lone nutter. We proclaim all the lone nutters together. Elaine says thank you. April says thank you so much for this. This resonates so much with what I've been working through. So it looks as if April, that sounds as if I had already done yours, so that's fine. That's why I'm a bit confused, because my memory is not remembering who I've done and who I've not. Suzanne says already gave your rune. Michelle says I'm craving potato leek soup now. Excellent. Maggie says I think I missed mine in Perthrow. Thank you. Yes. Darren had Hargelas. Okay, I've done Hargelas. Apologies, Darren, if I did, if I missed you out there. Yeah, I'm so sorry that the message is being a little bit naughty. So Perthrow, we've done Hargelas, we've done that claiming the energy of the storm, but we haven't done Perthrow. So let's finish with Perthrow. Here we have the Perthrow rune with the cauldron. Obviously we have Odin's chariot in Perthrow through this week, starting today. So it is that really deepening into seership. I think for you, Maggie, it is that owning your power as a seer. It's almost that blessing that is coming from Perthrow. I would, if you're doing any like seership rituals at the moment, you could look at bringing Perthrow into them, either like having it on your table, or I'm seeing something like, oh, I'm going to message you separately about that, because I want to put some more advice in there around the Perthrow rune. But yeah, I can see something coming through very strongly there. It's that just saying, this is mine, this is mine, this is my zone, this is where that's coming from. So a blessing for you from Perthrow there. Okay. Laura says, reminds me of my favourite song in DMC5, Bury the Light. Karen says, thank you, totally makes sense. We'll have that in mind. The ball rolling, the dance started, and now I go with the flow. Excellent. Alessandra says, thank you, we'll do that. Maggie says, that's exciting. Thank you, I adored. Good. So thank you to Suzanne and those of you who picked up when I had missed out runes. Yes, I just suddenly, a whole swathe of comments disappeared off my screen there, so I really appreciate it. Lovely to see you all. Have a wonderful week ahead. Just a reminder, we have our second Illuminate retreat tonight. There is still time to sign up. You get the recording of the previous retreat, and you will have all of the recordings available to you for a year if you sign up. And yeah, I think that's it really at this point. So I will see you all very soon. Lots of love to you all, and thank you for your patience when I went a bit awry there with who we had done and who we had not done. Take care, everybody. Merry full moon, says Darcy. Yes, indeed.